Let's rock this town.
A Swift Kick in the Ass, episode 84.
All big changes start with a swift kick in the ass. Join the journey of lifelong friends, John Curren and Tom Stewart, as they make conventional thought bend over and take a boot to the keister. Warning, listeners may notice a force equal to or greater than needed to get your ass moving. A swift kick in the ass, living life on your terms.
Welcome, I'm Tom Stewart. I'm joined with my lifelong childhood friend, John Curren, in today's episode. John,
You're drawing a blank?
does recent rain make you feel stupid?
So, everyone, we're going to do an episode about recentering. And does recentering make you feel stupid? Not does a recent rain.
and what that was is I didn't have any notepad to write down what the title was, so I texted it to myself, but voice to text changed it and made it,
Yeah. So if you're bored, maybe you should listen to your voice texts.
Absolutely.
Anyhow, so we're going to talk about recentering and how that makes us feel stupid. Now, I've taken on a new role at work, and anytime that you take on something new, I think there's potential for you to feel quite stupid. I mean, you simply don't know the job. You don't know systems. You don't know, people. There are a lot of unknowns when you start anything new, whether it be a job, a relationship, a new day. So many unknowns, and that can make you feel dumb. If you do wrong things, if you mess up, if you I don't know.
Well, John, I know exactly what you're talking about, because a year ago I came from the 25 years of radio, and I've merged with our TV stations. So essentially I have a new job. Even though I'm the same engineer I was, I'm trying to learn a new skill set and new systems. And while I know the principles of engineering, I don't know the systems that they use. So sometimes, I feel like an idiot, or I just feel like I went from being a rock star to being I had no clue what was going on. And it can be disheartening, really.
Yeah, I think, as I think about it too, I think that if you're a person that identifies themselves with what they do for a living, what you do for a job, I think it's very easy to take it very hard and kick yourself really hard. And when you do something, when you're in a new situation and maybe you're not getting it, or you're just in the process of learning. You're new at something, so you simply just don't know.
Well, John, the thing is that what's important that people have to realize is it's during that time when you're feeling that pain and being uncomfortable, that's when growth is actually occurring.
Oh, yeah.
And this show's about personal change, and that's the time that you want to feel that. If you're too comfortable, you're not doing something right.
Yeah, that's very true. But what I was saying is that when you identify with a job, you could take things very personally, when really it has nothing necessarily to do with you personally. It has to do with the job, with the situation that you're in. Sometimes if you're in a bad situation, you're going to feel bad, and you're supposed to feel bad. You're in a bad situation, but people seem to kick themselves. I think I know I kick myself at times when I'm feeling bad. If I've done something wrong, or I don't know, I'll just I'm my own worst critic. So I think there's part of us that benefits from that kick in the ass, giving ourselves a kick in the ass to help move us forward. But then I think it's also an opportunity to think about why you're kicking yourself in the ass, and is that really appropriate to do that? Because sometimes I think there can be outside influences pushing you in a certain direction, and maybe you're disagreeing with that, and maybe that's why you feel upset. But, and you're kicking yourself over the way you feel because you're giving in to these outside influences. Rather than taking a deep breath, really trying to step back from the situation for a moment and look at the big picture and then make decisions based on that. Try to take the emotion out of the circumstance and bring yourself back to center. I think grounding yourself, remembering who you are, where you've come from, what you're about, what you're capable of, who you are as a person needs to be at the core of any decision that you make.
I could have recentered myself 5 minutes ago when I looked down at my phone and I did not have the show title in front of me, and I hesitated, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
we're going to start over.
Right.
And then I thought, you know what? Why? Let's just tell the truth, because that's who me and John are very
Yeah.
transparent.
Yeah.
Tell the truth. What, my voice to text gave me something different and started making me laugh. And we continued on. I recentered and I said, let's move forward. I could have made it, because I could have done that, my old mentor Ernesto used to say, perfection is the enemy of good. And what happens is I could have stopped. I could have went back. We could have started and done it again.
Right.
And it would have been perfect, and
you
no one
and
would have known. But
Our listeners would have never known that.
right. But that's who we are. That's
exactly right.
We're trying to be transparent because we want to,
Acknowledge that, we're human.
right. And you make mistakes, and not everything's perfect. If you'll notice right now, this sounds a little different than most of our podcasts. You'll hear some ambience of some birds chirping and some
Dogs barking maybe, and perhaps you may hear chickens if you're lucky.
And what it is I'm actually visiting John face to face. Normally, I'm down in Fort Lauderdale, and John is in Virginia, and
Right.
we do this over Google Hangouts. That's how we make our connection. We do our podcast. But I'm on vacation right now, and I came up to visit John. I brought my family up to spend some time with his family, and it's sort of recentering, reconnecting, and that's important to do. And so I'm looking at John face to face right now, and it's a unique experience. So this will be a kind of different podcast, but it's
But this is a different podcast.
yes,
Yeah, it's we have people in our lives and that are important to us, and we can talk to them on the phone. We could, in the olden days, we'd send letters, but that's long gone. We'd email, we telephone. We use technology to stay in touch. Facebook, we get to see everyone's pictures and feel like we're a part of their lives, but that's a virtual reality. That's not real. I mean, you can't touch it. You're not really there. You're kind of experiencing it vicariously.
Well, I told John, I said, when I saw his actual place where his podcast studio per se,
Yeah,
it was totally different. It was a converted garage that kind of had like a little loft. Very cool, but I thought he was like just in a regular bedroom, and it kind of blew my mind. It was like I only see a certain part through the camera.
Yeah.
The part that you want me to see. You don't want me to see the laundry on the floor or
There's no laundry on the floor. There are guitars.
But so what I'm getting at is it's different to be able to reconnect with someone in person. It's important to do that.
Yeah, to be face to face, and it's a reminder. It's a really great reminder, I think, of who we are as people. It's really easy, I think, to let our circumstances guide us and even guide our not only our actions but our feelings as well. And when you reconnect with friends such as Tom or family, you're yourself, and there's nothing better than to be yourself. And this is really about being true to yourself. And I guess it's my feeling that because of all of the various influences throughout our lives, it's very easy to get off center with your life and start heading in a direction that maybe you don't want to go.
Right, and usually that's someone else's position, someone else's direction. And we're all about living life on our own terms. And sometimes you have to say, wait a second, is this going to help me reach my goals that I want to achieve?
Right.
Or is this reaching someone else's goals?
Yeah, so really, I think it's an opportunity to ask yourself these type of questions. Is this something that I really think I should be doing or shouldn't be doing? Or, how do you feel? And how does that help you reach your goals? Does this help you get to where you ultimately want to go? Is this serving your purposes? And I think so many of us just kind of go with the flow, and we don't necessarily question that. I think a lot of us actually just kind of treat life as a habit. And we all know, habits are actions that we do without thinking. And isn't that what a lot of us do just throughout life? We just take a whole bunch of different actions without really thinking about it. It just becomes routine. We go to bed before we go to bed at night. We set our alarm clock for the wake us up in the morning, and it goes off in the morning, and we get up, and then we, shower or get ready for work, and we work.
Right, because we're habitual animals.
Right.
And we've talked about that. You can use that to your advantage, or it can be a
Absolutely.
disadvantage. So you can replace negative habits with good habits. And, we've had many shows about this, talked about some of our own personal experiences, me giving up Diet Coke and supplement it with water. That's been 2.5 years, a habit that I had for over 20 years, maybe 25 years, of drinking about 8 Diet Cokes a day and replacing that with water. And the other habit, I started doing the stairs 6 months ago every day,
Right.
Without fail. I show up there and I do it.
Yeah,
And-
habits aren't bad necessarily. I mean, taking actions that you have decided that, hey, this is something I want to do, I'm going to do it, and you do it, and you're not thinking about it anymore because you made a decision and you're going forward.
And
that's good.
You do it
healthy.
You do it long enough, it becomes like a system and like a piece of software in a computer. And when you boot up in the morning, it automatically, you just do it without thinking about it.
Just routine.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that because honestly, we have so much information being thrown at us these days that we have to pick and choose. And I guess what we're trying to say here is that we should pick and choose wisely. There are some things in life that we really do need to think about. It just takes creating triggers or red flags in your life to say, hey, you need to start asking yourself questions. If you feel a certain way, you don't necessarily understand why. Maybe you should stop for a minute and try to think about why you're really feeling, this. And also, I know when I'm feeling down, I'm like, I tell myself to stop it, because it's not productive. It's not doing anything for you positively, in a positive fashion.
Absolutely. Your mind performs loops.
Yeah.
And it will continue playing bad thoughts or bad experiences you've had that day. And it does
just
a
plays
disservice.
out it plays out in your head over and over.
Right.
And it's very difficult to break. But you have to break it, because if you don't break it, then it's just going to keep getting worse and worse.
So let me tell you, John, one day I was doing the stairs and I was running up and down, and I had one of those days where I had an altercation with someone, and it was in my head and it kept on going over and over in my mind. And I was like, I just need to get rid of this. So I thought, of myself as a computer, as my mind as a computer, and so I'm going to change to programming. And, I started thinking different thoughts, and I go, you know what? I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to put a big smile on my face as I'm running, like I'm really enjoying this, even though it's grueling going up the damn stairs. It's hot. I'm all sweaty. I'm there with my shirt off. So I run up to the top of the stairs and with this big grin on my face. When I get to the top of the stairs, I swipe my bald head and all the sweat goes flying everywhere. And I look over, there's this couple looking at me like, who's this insane, crazy, sweaty, bald man with a big grin on his face? And that right there, I think, was enough to get rid of that bad thought that was recycling in my brain.
Yeah, I always say, smile and leave people guessing. The smile is the most disarming thing in the world because you really don't know what the hell that person is smiling about.
I think that's what this couple was like. Okay, this guy's like a psycho.
Yeah, I've had some tough times at work recently, and every night I try to go and take my dog for a walk. And what I find is that it really helps. And if I'm walking just with my dog, I can kind of power walk, not like Phil Dunphy from Modern Family power walking, where I have the special shoes with the round bottoms, so it tightens up my buttocks. No, I don't have those shoes, but I like to, I have long legs and I kind of have a long stride, so I can kind of power walk. What I've started doing is actually started kind of running or jogging at the end. What started off kind of as a fast walk turned into something more. And the way I felt before I took that walk was so different after I ran. The physical stress affects you physically. And when you exercise, that helps release the stress.
Absolutely.
And so, my state of mind when I started that walk, and my state of mind by the time I ended it at a jog, which is a long time since I ran, and I'm thinking I need to maybe start doing that again. But it just something clicked inside of me. It was like, as I was moving faster, I was like, it's tough to move fast, but it feels good. And I got to do it. And I could almost feel the stress just kind of coming off me. And that too, I think, helps to re-center yourself.
Well, you know what you should do? Because I've seen, and I'm shooting on you right now.
Yeah,
I saw
like
you do your
kids.
your Mick Jagger impersonation today. And the one thing that can also reduce stress besides exercise is laughing. And we were all laughing, and John's kids were like, "You look like a chicken."
You do look like a chicken when you strut like Mick
And if
Jagger.
you strut like Mick Jagger after a nice stride of jogging, I guarantee you all your stress is going to be gone.
If I do it in front of my neighbors, they'll probably all be laughing too.
But laughter is very important, and that's something. If you're stuck,
Yeah.
you're immobile and you can't exercise. That's a great way to connect with friends. Bring back some good conversation.
No, but what about if you feel so bad, like you're kicking yourself so bad that you don't find anything funny? Like, for instance, through this stressful few weeks at work, I've turned on the TV at night, and I think we're watching like America's Got Talent or something like that. And other people are laughing, but maybe you're not laughing too, or you're like, this is stupid. You're not, your mindset's not there. And that's where I think you have to take a little bit more drastic action, because your mindset is not really allowing you to your mindset's not going to release that stress. You have to do something else. So for me, getting exercise, that's a key part of how I handle stress. And because of my hand operation, I've actually been doing push-ups, Tommy.
That's good.
I'm up. I do 15 solid push-ups. I do them at least once a day, but I've been doing twice a day sometimes, and just trying to do more and more. But I need to get more diligent about my cardiovascular exercise, and I think I'm going to start jogging.
That's good.
But
I don't see 5 levels of stairs here anywhere around you. So unless you run your stairs,
maybe
in your
we
house.
could shimmy up a tree, or I don't know.
Because I took it to heart what you were saying about push-ups, and sometimes when I'm doing the stairs, I'll stop and do a couple sets of push-ups in between, and it makes a difference.
Yeah.
But,
So, I mean, it's just little things that add up. So also, Tommy and I were talking about this earlier. I'm surprised you didn't bring it up, because just getting yourself out of your current environment. Tommy took a 14-hour trip.
Yep.
Straight, solid.
Well, I did stop at south of the border so we could get some good pictures with Pedro.
Yeah, you have to do that, I guess. Although my wife...
So it's actually turned into a 16-hour trip. But
yeah,
it's me and my wife and my 2 kids. We decided instead of every year I live in Florida, so every year it seems that we're going to Universal Studios or Walt Disney World, and I usually go camping, which is very good and great for reconnecting. But I wanted to do something different. My daughter's 20 years old. She's going to be leaving, she's already in college, but soon she's going to go to grad school. That's part of our trip is we're going to stop in Savannah and check out her grad school where she wants to go. But regardless, I was like, we've never really been on a true road trip. And I thought it would be a great opportunity while the family is still here to get out and, reconnect as a family, reconnect with, friends by coming up and seeing John, because John's been asking me to come here for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I haven't come. And
I always go down there. And, when you live in Florida, I think the mentality of most residents down there is that, hey, I live in paradise. Why do I have to leave?
Right.
So you don't. But when you're a kid and you grow up in Florida and all you know is paradise, when you travel out to the rest of the country, it's eye-opening because it's a much different environment. It's a much different place. Florida is almost like its own country, honestly.
And you were talking about, say that you couldn't laugh because you're watching something on TV and you can't pull yourself out of that funk.
Yeah.
When you connect with friends and family, they help you.
Yes.
I don't care if you have a beer or whatever else it takes to loosen you up, that helps pull it out of you. And that is really what life is about. And bringing those, people and surrounding yourself by like-minded individuals that have your best interest at heart allows you to be able to recenter and find out what's important and get rid of what's not.
Or just people that you can be yourself with.
Yeah.
Let's just face it. We put on masks all the time. And there are a few people that we can kind of just take those masks off and just be ourselves. Great Billy Joel song, "The Stranger." Just thought about that. Behind every face, behind every mask, there's a face. The faces of the stranger, and sometimes that stranger is yourself.
Sometimes you don't even know you put those masks on.
Right.
Because think about when you interact with someone that's maybe an elder that you've known since your childhood, or say your parents. I used to go home, and my father, he's gone 10 years now at least. But when I used to go in, even as a grown man, I found myself talking to my father like I was a 15-year-old kid. Yeah. And I was like, why am I talking back to him like I'm a kid, like I'm still in high school? But that was the mask that I wore when I was around my father. And I kind of had to realize that and go, I gotta take off this little kid mask and, become the adult that I am. And I think that happens sometimes when you're with a boss that, maybe you feel, you put on like a submissive employee mask or something. And it happens with other people where you become the authoritative.
You can put on your mask with your spouse. I mean, you can put it on with anyone.
Yeah.
I mean,
I put my sexy mask on with my spouse.
Yeah.
She likes that. If she was here, she'd be laughing.
Yeah, she would be.
We tried to get our wives to do a reverse podcast and actually do the podcast today, but they weren't into it, so sorry.
But, if you send us your input, we will definitely share it with them, and maybe we can convince them to come on.
Yeah, because we talk about Swift kicking ass, but who really chews our ass and gives us Swift kicks in our ass is our spouse.
Between the cheeks, right? Anyhow,
they get our ass moving.
No, I think going back to people who identify with their jobs, I think this is that is a mask that you put on, and you wear it so well, and you wear it for so long that you kind of forget that there's life outside of work. And there's a great book that I read, and it's called "You Can Retire Earlier Than You Think," and it talks about people's happiness, and that the people who spend all their time and spend all their life working and not having a life outside of work find that retirement is very difficult. In fact, there are many people who will, work all their life, and the day after they retire, they go into deep depression just because they don't know what to do with themselves. They haven't spent time building a life for themselves. All they've been doing is working. So, again, I think this is an opportunity to kind of take that mask off and look within and try to recenter yourself and look at it as an opportunity as well to perhaps start heading you in a direction more of your choosing. Or maybe, it's staying in line, whatever it is. Think about your actions and ask if they are, truly what you want for yourself, because life is too short. So you have to pursue things while you can. And that's really what matters. Spending time with friends, family, traveling, having good food, conversation, just being with like-minded people that you love and care about.
And if you're not in that situation, if you're around, a toxic environment or something that's not making you happy anymore, sometimes you have to look and say, it's time to leave. It's time for a change of scenery.
Yeah. And what about people who don't have lifetime childhood friends, Tom? I think that there are a lot of people who are lucky if they have one good friend. We have a lot of acquaintances in our life, but do we really have people who we can be ourselves with and, who accept us for who we are and we accept them for who they are?
Well, it's never too late to start making a friend.
Right.
Right. And there's lots of ways. I mean, now in our digital world, it's easy to reconnect with someone on a computer. Or one of the things I really like to do is I go to meetups.
Yeah.
I go to meetups for WordPress, for making websites, for podcast, for being, business, entrepreneurship. And there's ways to find people that are interested in the things you like. And that could start off a friendship.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. And I make friends at work too. I find people that have, similar interest or, the same, traveling down the same path I am. And I connect with those people. And I think that's easy for people to, I think there's so many opportunities out there for people to get out, but you have to get out of your house. You have to try and make an effort.
Yeah, that's, absolutely right. And that's exactly where I wanted to take that conversation, is that there are meetups. Just going out to the grocery store and smiling at someone can really make them question why you're smiling. And they might just ask you, why are you smiling? And that might strike up a conversation.
Yeah, and if you have any faith-based organizations, or if you go to church or synagogue or whatever
Right.
you worship a totem out in the forest, whatever it might be, there's someone else out there probably worshiping the same totem, and it's a great place that gives you a common denominator. I know some of our best friends that we hang out with, John, in my circle, came from my church. And we find them, we're camping with them now. And my church has kind of been dismantled and moved, and different priests. And so it's a different place. But I still have those friends. And, it's not based sitting there talking about, religion or anything like that. They just became our friends because we had a common denominator.
Yeah.
And they had children around our age. And they were families that were like us, going through the same, issues we were in life. And we became kind of like this big, every year we go on camping trips together, and there'll be like 20 of us. It's awesome.
Yeah. So to me, that's all about community.
Mm-hmm.
And community is not just the place that you live. It's also with people that you spend time with who have common interests. You can have different communities in your life. Like Tom said, Tom has his neighborhood community, and he has the community of his church.
And I also have our gym community where we, we do jiu-jitsu and...
Yeah, community is just a group of people. And
Right.
you can have a community as well at work.
And you know what else you could do?
What?
You could be a swinger. That's a great community.
A swinger?
A swinger. Going through some of the podcasts in iTunes the other day, I was like, noticed it was a bunch of swinger podcasts, and I was like, well, that's cool, you know.
Yeah. And, what is it? Is it? It's not living on your own term, and it's not living on your terms, but it's living the life. I think like
they call it the lifestyle.
They call
the lifestyle. That's what they refer to as swinging.
Yeah, it's I'm living the life could mean that they're swingers.
Yeah,
is what I understand. I didn't know that before.
Hey, man, yeah. To each their own.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just because my wife never agreed. No, I'm just kidding. And I never agreed to what she proposed either. No, I'm just kidding. Anyhow, this is a great visit with Tom and his family. We're gonna get back to visiting and kind of wrap up this episode. But we just wanted to kind of again get you thinking about the center of yourself and your current situation and where you are. And
that would be Phineas.
Yeah, that's my dog. But that's thinking about getting back to who you are and getting back to who you are, your true self, and forgiving yourself when you make mistakes, and learning from them and moving forward.
Absolutely. And, I really enjoyed this podcast, even though, like I said, it's not inside of a studio. It's like everything I do for work because, we're all about, perfect sound and it has to be closed in. But this is beautiful. I'm sitting in Virginia surrounded by lush green trees like forest. I got birds chirping. I got dogs barking. I've been, I just took a visit down in Richmond with John, with our families. We had lunch. We went through some shopping, went through a cemetery that we saw President Tyler and Monroe that were buried there. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, that sounds kind of morbid, but it's at the Hollywood Cemetery in Richmond, Virginia, and it's very old.
Oh, and we went to let's talk about morbid. We went to a store that was all based on outside the cemetery. It was all based like on death and goth.
Oddities, right?
Oddities, yeah.
Yeah.
And what freaked me out, John, is there was a stroller full of baby doll heads, like all and bozos.
Were they spinning, Tom?
They would be. If they're in my house, man, I'm telling you, I would have lit that thing in fire and sent it to hell.
Well, I think you can't top that. So let's wrap this up. Thank you again for listening to A Swift Kick in the Ass.
Absolutely. Make sure you check out aswiftkickintheass.com. There you can find our free membership site, find out John's simple spinning tool that he created, and a lot of different courses that we have. We're always going to be dropping stuff in there, so make sure you sign up. And don't let when you sign up, there's a credit card thing on there. You don't have to enter any information. It's just how I hooked up the membership. It's completely free. Just put your email in there, and you're in, like Flynn. Thanks. Yep. This is Tom Stewart.
John Curren.
Peace.
Until the next time. Peace.